Hey YouTube. This video is going to be a continuation of episode 22, parts 1 and 2. So, I'll let you know what happened since we left on that positive note. And a bit of a rant too about a few things that have happened this week. So hopefully this doesn't end up being too long, or it may just be split into 2 parts, so you don't get a 40-minute video again. I'm trying to keep away from doing that again. Before I get into it, though, I would like to say I hope you guys have checked out my last 2 videos that I've uploaded. My cover of Guns and Ships from Hamilton. Don't laugh too hard at my rapping, but a chance to rap in a French accent, I couldn't pass that up. And my original song, Snow. I'm a little undecided about how I sound vocally, but I think you guys should definitely check it out and give me your thoughts with likes, preferably, and some comments. Alright, so, where we last left off, I guess I'll give you just a quick summary. So, I get home, and in the first 2 weeks, things are pretty crazy with my mom. She's making a big deal about me traveling, even though for the past, 9-10 months, however long I was in school, I was traveling on my own. I was even traveling on my own somewhat in high school as well, except for when it came to, someone would always meet me at the train station, because the walk from the train station to our old apartment was pretty, it was pretty circuitous, and you had to cross, an 8-lane highway, so, yeah, that wasn't cool. But now, we moved to this house, and the walk from the train station to our home is really simple, actually. It's a straight line, and it's only 3 street crossings, and side streets at that. So it's, she's making a big deal that I felt was unwarranted. Obviously, or not obviously, because you guys don't know, but I didn't say this to her. And generally, when we interact, if she yells at me, I generally respond fairly calmly, or I like to think that I respond calmly. Sometimes she accuses me of an attitude, and sometimes I do have an attitude. But just as, I don't always infuse my voice with a lot of emotion in my videos. It's basically how I am in real life. I'm not a very emotional person. So I feel like also just being calm sometimes also irritates her more, or sometimes when she knows that I'm being reasonable. But with that said, I try a lot to see things from her perspective so that I'm less irritated, and I do get it. She's a parent, she's worried about me, but so many of our issues stem from my vision, and we have, completely different outlooks on the world and life. Haha, no pun intended, different outlooks. But anyway, so, last week, for the first 2 weeks, rather, I would wake up at 6 a.m. to head out with her, so, because she didn't want me walking to the train, so I'd get up at 6, we'd leave out at 7:30, and for 2 days, I would just hang out in Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks for about an hour and a half until it was time for me to head into work. I thought this was pretty insane, because, I could have been at home getting an extra hour and a half of sleep, but I didn't complain. A few times I tried to talk to her about it, and she'd yell at me saying that we just moved to the neighborhood, I didn't know any of the people, and they hadn't seen me. And there were a few times, one of the times she told me that I never want anyone to help me. She wanted me to get a mobility teacher, so someone to work on the route with me. The walk that I mentioned was a straight line, and I told her that I would, but I personally thought that it was unnecessary because we've done the walk, and I had it down, I had it memorized, and I had to learn more complicated walks in school, or more complicated routes, I don't know which is the proper term, but I had to work on more complicated routes while I was in school, and sometimes I didn't have as much time, in preparation. I just have to kind of go off of maps and maybe call my sister and get some directions from her, what she could give me. and she yelled at me and told me that I don't want anyone to help me, I don't listen to anybody. There was one point when, because it takes a little while to get a mobility teacher, there was one point when she said that at the rate I was going, me being independent and wanting to travel, that's the impression that I received, like what she meant by me going at this rate. But at this rate, I wouldn't live to see my 20th birthday. And what's today's date, guys? The 6th. I say it like you guys can respond to me. The 16th. So my 20th birthday is in 3 months and 12 days. So that's heartening. Thanks, Mom. And, she said a few other things or whatever that I won't get into. But, so, we had that going on. There was one day I even went to work with my sister. And when she was on break, she's a teacher, when she was on break, she walked with me to the train station because it was like the route was a lot shorter than what my mom wanted me to do, which was a bus to this train, and it was a lot. So, last Friday, I didn't have to work, but I was supposed to meet up with these girls from my math class, which I'm going to make another vlog about, telling you how that's going. Yes, it warrants its own separate vlog, rather. Whoops. But so I was going to meet up with them, and we were supposed to meet at 12:30. Now, I had to usually be at work for 9 or 10. So if I left with my mom at like 7:30, I would have to hang out in like a restaurant or just sit in school. Or not a restaurant, but like an establishment, a Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks, or just sit in school doing nothing for like 4 hours, maybe not 4 hours, about 3 hours. And it would have been unnecessary. So I told her this last Thursday night, and she got upset with me, but she didn't yell. It was more like a passive-aggressive anger. Because, she then, when my sister came upstairs, my sister and I had gone to the movies. We went to see Neighbors. It was great, by the way. When my sister had come upstairs, she was like, oh, make sure you tell your sister to, make sure she locks up properly. Because if anyone comes in here and steals anything, like, this is your house, all of my stuff, like, I only have little stuff. I don't care if anything happens to it, yada, yada, yada. And the next day, she asked if I wanted her friend. So she woke me up. As I said in the previous 2 videos, she would just, like, walk in and start talking to me. Just, like, a full-blown conversation. And I'm not a light sleeper, or I'm not a heavy sleeper, rather. So she would just, like, walk in, and I'd wake up, and I'd register what she asked me, but I'd still be a little confused. And she did that on Friday at, like, 6 a.m. She just, like, burst into the room, just angrily speaking at me. I wasn't sure exactly what time I was leaving, and she suggested that her friend come over and, like, helps me or assist me or makes sure that I lock up properly. And I'm not quite sure what that means. I'm capable of putting a key in a door and turning it. But, I told her no, because I wasn't sure exactly what time I was leaving. I didn't want to waste his time. So she, what did she do? Sorry, losing my train of thought. Oh, right, okay. So, she, like, slammed my door. I haven't even gotten a chance to slam my door. I probably wouldn't, because I don't get angry as normal people do, i.e., or as most people do, i.e., like, screaming and slamming things and throwing things. But, so she walks out, she slams my door, and then she calls me a few hours later to see if I'd left yet, but the girls had canceled. So, like, her mood shift was so instantaneous. And, the next day I had music school. My sister was supposed to meet me at the train station, but she let me walk home by myself because she realizes that I'm capable of walking on my own. And the walk was as simple as I thought. And so the next Monday, I don't know what prompted it, but my mom, she told me basically, like, that I could walk to the train station that morning, but she called her friend to come and, like, lock the door for me. So we did this on Monday and Tuesday night, and then Tuesday night, I was like, why do you have him come over? Like, I don't, this is, I don't want to put him out of his way, whatever he's doing. And she's like, no, it's on his way to wherever else he's going, so it's fine. And I really didn't want to push it because I try not to argue. I'm not much of an arguer. So, then on Wednesday? What happened on Wednesday? So yeah, it continued on basically on Wednesday as well. I forgot that today was Thursday. In my mind, it was Friday. It continued on Wednesday, but today I didn't have to work. So she, I told her that her friend, not to call her friend over because I wasn't going to leave as early as I normally did. So about like 8:49, I'd be leaving maybe around noon, or 11 or noon, but I wasn't sure exactly when. And she took this a lot better, but she wanted me to call her as I was locking the door in case anything happened, and, like, she wanted me to give her updates, which, okay, I'm fine with. Like, if you want me to give you updates as I travel on my own, that's perfectly fine, but I feel like it's unnecessary to have someone come. Like, I locked my room door every day for 10 months, and nothing was stolen. And I don't know, like, I get being overprotective and being worried, but at the same time, like, I feel like if I didn't have these skills in the time when I was at school, when it was just all on me, then, like, it makes no sense to me. Or, no, it doesn't make, so I understand where she's coming from, but I think the way she goes about it is insane, like, just her attitudes and yelling at me and saying half of the crap that she does. But, yeah, okay, anyway. So, one of the days that I was heading to the train, this is where the ranting comes in. I just took 12 minutes to tell you that, sorry. So one of the days I was walking to the train. First, I was walking, I believe this was on Monday? Yeah, on Monday. So I'm walking to the train, and this guy, as I'm walking, he's like, "You're doing great!" And I'm just like, "Okay, thanks." Totally random, but alright, whatever, I'll take it. And then, as I'm crossing the street, he, like, grabs my arm. He's like, "Oh, yeah, you're fine, you're doing great." And I know that I can cross the street, so I don't do anything, and then I turn, and we cross again, and he's like, "Don't worry, I'm not following you. My apartment is on this block, and I was not worried about you following me until you said something, sir." So, we're walking, and he's like, "I see you sometimes walking with that lady, blah, blah, blah." Great, sir. That's awesome. So then we part ways when he gets to his apartment. And so I'm walking, I'm continuing to the next street crossing, and this woman with a very thick Caribbean accent, I believe she was Jamaican, like, it was really thick, but it sounded like it was kind of mixed with things, so predominantly, I'm pretty sure she was Jamaican. But yeah, so she, like, grabs my arm, she's like, "Oh, you can cross now," and I kind of tensed my arm, and I, like, pulled away, and she got upset with me. But, like, you're grabbing me. Now, yes, I can see a little bit. Obviously, people don't know this, so for all intents and purposes, you're grabbing a fully blind person. How is that okay? And obviously, I get it, it's well-intentioned, but, think about what you're doing as you do it. Think about the way it comes off. I've said this in so many of my videos, but, that's for me, it's not necessarily scary, but I don't know. Let's say I was new to New York City. I'm a new blind person, and I just have someone grabbing me. Like, what? How frightening would that be? But anyway, so I kind of, like, pulled away, and she's like, "Oh, no, I'm trying to help you, blah, blah, blah." But by that point, I had enough time to listen to the traffic, and I knew that I could cross now. So I started walking, and she, like, takes my arm, and whatever, I don't do anything. And she lets go of me once we cross over, but we're still walking in the same direction. We get to the next street, she grabs me again. And, she's like, "Hey, are you heading to the train?" And I paused, and I was like, yes? And she's like, "Oh, yeah, so am I, so we can walk there together, blah, blah, blah." But she doesn't grab me again as we're walking, she just walks beside me. And anytime I, like, veer or, like, move just slightly from a straight line, I barely walk in a straight line. So, that was pretty often. She's like, no, keep going straight, you're doing well." I didn't do an accent because, all of my Caribbean accents are pretty bad. Or maybe I'm just super self-conscious of them because I'm around a lot more Caribbean people than I am the other accents that I imitate. Anywho, I'm saying a lot. Wow. All right. Sorry. Lost my train of thought. Okay, got it. So we get to the train station, and she, like, assists me up the stairs and through the turnstile and everything. We get on the platform, and she's like, "Hey," she's like, "What stop are you getting off?" And I was like, "I'm getting off in Manhattan." She's like, "Yes, but what stop are you getting off?" I'm really not comfortable telling you that. Now, I've said this to people, and they've gotten upset with me. How do I know what you're going to do? Like, why do you want to know what stop I'm getting off? I appreciate your assistance, but, I have told someone this, I'm not comfortable telling you that, and they got upset with me, and they were like, why? I'm just trying to help you, I want to make sure you get there safely, and I was like, I appreciate that, but, I've been doing this a while, longer than I've met you. I don't remember how to phrase it. I'm sorry. I've been doing this a lot longer. There we go. A lot longer than, just like this one time when you met me. I'll be fine. And they got upset, but whatever. So, Caribbean lady, I told her some random stop. And she's like, oh, so you're going to switch over to this train? And I was like, no, I'm staying on this one. And she's like, oh, okay, okay. And then she, like, walks away. And then when the train comes, she, like, comes back and, like, grabs me and assists me on. I don't know. It's the approach. The approach is what really irritates me. And, I think I also get annoyed after, like, the fifth person who offers... No, actually, no, I don't. I don't get annoyed by people offering me assistance. I only get annoyed by how they go about offering me assistance. Because, I can't be upset at someone wanting to help me. It's admirable. And there are a lot of people when I actually need help, when I'm calling out to them, and they just totally keep walking past me. So I appreciate when people offer assistance. But it's the way you go about it. And it's also, if I say I don't need help, don't keep pushing at it. Like, I don't need help. If I don't need help, like, what help are you going to force onto me? Because you don't know exactly what I need, But, as I was walking with the lady, as we were walking to the train station, she's like, so have you been like this, your entire life? And I was like, what do you mean, ma'am? And she's like, no, ma'am, I don't know. She's like, not able to see? And I was like, oh, you mean blind? And she seemed very, like, flustered by that. And I was like, well, I can see a little out of one eye, but I am, so I'm not fully blind, but I have been this way since I was born. And she's like, oh, wow, and you're so young. So, is it okay if I'm old to be blind? Like, I know that happens to older people, but does that make it okay? Does my youngness, like, does that negate, or, no, not negate, that's not the right word, but does that mean, that I can't be blind? Like, I also don't appreciate when people, like, feel pity for me, because I don't feel pity for myself, so I don't want you to pity me. But, so she was like, do you live alone? And I was like, no, I live with my mom. And she's like, oh, I guess your mom can't walk you everywhere, huh? No, she can't. I'm glad you realized that in the span of, like, a minute. I hope she can realize that eventually. Actually, no, she does realize this, because on Tuesday night, I was going to, she told me that she was going to come home late from work, and normally we'd meet up on the train. We'd leave around the same time, or she'd just come and meet me at the station. And she's like, oh, why don't you meet, she wanted me to meet my sister at her gym. And so that was going to be an 8-block walk. Yeah, I think it's 8 blocks, yeah. So that was going to be 8 blocks, and, she's totally fine with me doing that, but not walking to our own home. That's great. However, with that said, I did do the walk today. This morning I didn't have to work, so I told her yesterday evening not to have her friend come, because I'd be leaving somewhere around 11 or noon. I didn't know what time I was leaving, and if 8:30 was him on his way to, wherever he was going, then noon he would definitely be, doing whatever. I don't remember what it was, if you guys didn't get that impression by this point. But, like, I really didn't want to put him out of his way, and he does so much for us. So she took that a lot better, although she did call me 7 times, I'm not exaggerating, this morning. I was asleep for 6 of those calls. But she wanted me to let her, talk to her as I was locking the front door, because if anything happened, she'd be on the phone. I don't have any issue. I didn't have any issue with that, and I have no qualms like just texting her and letting her know that I've reached my destination, wherever that destination may be. It's just, I'm doing it on my own, provided that I am getting there on my own. I don't have an issue telling you when I've gotten there. Um, and I don't think that's unreasonable. Like, she wants to make sure that I'm safe. I think it's unreasonable when I get up at and head out at 7 when I don't have to be to work until like 10. But with all of that said, so I made the walk today, and then I didn't have to work after class either, because they painted the office and it was still like wet and it still smelled strongly of paint by the time my class was over. So I called her and I was like, so, I'm heading home, and she was still at work, so there was nothing much she could really do. She did call me as I was pulling into our station, and she was like, oh, maybe we're on the same train. We weren't. She was like 10 stops behind me. But I'm happy that she went underground before she could say what I'm pretty sure she was going to say, which she probably wanted me to wait for her at the station. But I got home and I like locked up and changed all before she even like got to our stops. That would have been a while just like standing or sitting there. So, I did make the walk. She now knows that I can make the walk going and coming, and I'll let you know this weekend, at the beginning in my of the video about my math class, how that's going. I'll let you know what came of tomorrow if she called her friend again, which I think would be pointless after today, but it's something she would do. So yeah, give me your thoughts about all of this, and remember, don't grab the blind person. Maybe just a gentle touch on the arm. Yeah, alright. Till next time. And as I said,